I think we can start now. Miss Rasanjali?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'll start. Ladies and gentlemen, very good evening. It brings me great joy to see all of you today. Please join on behalf of the Sri Lanka research community. I warmly welcome all of you to the fourth webinar on how to write an A-grade research proposal. Please join with me to greet and warmly welcome our distinguished speaker of today's webinar, Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe of Uva University of Sri Lanka. Dear professors and the audience, let me brief you about Sri Lanka research community. Sri Lanka Research Community is a voluntary and non-profit venture which was established in 2020 by Dr. Manoj Samaratunga, Rajarat University of Sri Lanka. As of now, it has around 170 registered members and around 1,400 Facebook followers. The main aim of Sri Lanka Research Community is to foster an advanced research culture among young academians in Sri Lanka and support them to pursue greater heights in their academic career. So far, we have successfully conducted 3 webinars on, first one, publishing in index journals, second one, international scholarship, third one, expectations of a PhD supervisor. In addition to that, Sri Lanka Research Community has initiated around 20 multidisciplinary research projects aimed at publishing with index journals under the supervision of seasoned scholars in the field of management and social science. A vast majority of our members are from different universities and higher education institutes in Sri Lanka, including Rajarat University of Sri Lanka, Sabaragama University of Sri Lanka, Wimba University of Sri Lanka, Open University of Sri Lanka, University of Colombo, Sri Jayawardhanapura University, University of Kelaniya, University of Peradeniya, Bhikshu University, Gampaha Wickramarachchi University, University Jaffna, University of Vavuniya, Uva Velasquez University, NSBM Green University, University of Vocational Technology, Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology, University Colleges, and Sri Lanka Institute of Advanced Technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, much time, facilitator of today's session, research community, Manoj Samaratunga. Dr. Manoj Samaratunga is also the research director of International Center for Interdisciplinary Culture Heritage and Tourism Research of China, Sri Lanka. Dr. Samaratunga serves as an editorial board member of many local and international and conducts research workshops for university academians with Staff Development Center and the National Center for Advanced Studies of Education. Dear sir, I cordially invite you to introduce our eminent speaker today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rasanjali. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
yes, we can.
I'm audible, right? Okay. Thank you very much for the nice introduction to Sri Lanka research community and the program we are going to conduct today. So we have our the eminent speaker, Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe, joining with us today to conduct this particular webinar on preparing a sound research proposal, particularly targeting the master's and PhD levels. And let me introduce Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe, who obtained his bachelor degree in tourism and hospitality management from Rajarat University of Sri Lanka with first class in 2004 and joined Aitken Spain's hotel management company as a project coordinator. Under his management, he has completed many projects with different hotels, including the tea factories, right, and Heritage Ahungal at different with different responsibilities. He joined with Uva Velasquez University in 2009 to start the degree program in tourism, hospitality, and events management, in which he has played the pivotal role in curriculum development, course administration, evaluations, and career guidance, and so on. He obtained Masters of Business Administration degree from Rajarat University in 2012, and he was awarded PhD by the School of Tourism, Sichuan University, Chengdu in China, for the thesis on socio-economic and cultural mobilities, and community-driven tourism development. His key research interests are sustainable tourism planning, management, and marketing. Professor Ruan has a strong interest in developing sustainable tourism businesses and management, for which he has initiated several projects with Provincial Tourism Ministry of UWA and Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority. He has published over 30 refereed research papers in renowned journals such as Cambridge Scholars, Taylor and Francis, InterScience, Emerald Publishers. He's also a full member of the Asia Pacific Travel Association since 2015. Presently, he serves as the pioneering head of the Department of Tourism Studies in Uwavellasa University of Sri Lanka, and also he's functioning as the director for a head World Bank funded project for higher education at Uwavellasa University. He's also functioning as a pioneer chairman of Uwavellasa Tourism Bureau since 2020. And before I'm going to hand over the session to Professor Ranasinghe, this is a kind request to all the participants. We have 110 participants as of now. When you have questions, please use the chat box to send to them, or you can raise the hands. Maybe after the session, Professor Ruan Ranasinghe will be more than happy to answer them. In the meantime, I'm inviting the Sri Lanka Research Community members to rename yourself with your name and the Sri Lanka Research Community number in your registration, right? And Professor Ruan Ranasinghe, the session is over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Manoj, for your kind introduction. Hope you all can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Fine. So it's my great pleasure actually to have a chat. I would say share some of my experiences with the young colleagues who are aspired to pursue research in the future in different fields. So once again, thank you so much for inviting me. And as Dr. Manoj mentioned, so it's like I would like to I have a couple of slides, so which we also discussed. We will be but in the meantime, if you have any clarifications, questions, anytime you can raise your hand. So drop that into the chat box so that we can take it. So I will quickly go through for the slides. Once again, I'm even not at home. I had a sudden business somewhere, so I'm in a different place, but hopefully everything will work. Yeah. So with that, we'll move on to the research, the proposal. I would say it's like, proposal is something, we know proposals, what proposals are basically. Yeah. So it's a lifetime thing, and you need to prove that your capabilities. It's simple as that. And you need to convince the academic, the judges, or the evaluation panel, or even the funders. Yeah. So for all these things, so it has multiple functions, which we will quickly move on, and then we will come back to the discussion of the points or the questions. So the most important question. So most of us that we are having, at this stage in the proposal preparation, or pursuing higher studies in the master's level or at the PhD level, we have this question. This is the question, and I was worrying for this question for about 10-15 years. Yeah, how do I write a research proposal is the question, the burning question that I was worried for about maybe 15 years for both my master's and PhD. Yeah. So it's a fair question, as I said, to answer, solidly, yeah, in preparing a sound research proposal. Yeah. So these are the areas that I'm going to take. What is the research proposal? Very quickly, we will go on that. And then why research proposal? Actually, why we should prepare it, for what purposes? Then, the content of a proposal. So there will be different, approaches or expectations of different institutes. We will try to, search or discuss few of them. So basically the key components of the core of a research proposal. And who evaluate the proposal is also critically important. Most of the time we forget. Yeah. So the person or the parties who are going to evaluate your proposal, and finally, what is the evaluation criteria is also equally important. I mean, as I mentioned, it will be a degree or at master level or PhD level, or a funding, yeah, or a project. For whatever it is, there should be an evaluation criteria which we need to address when we prepare the proposal. So those are the things I am going to address during the session. And so the brief for today's dinner is that what is a research proposal is the burning question, as I said. And it is a piece of, research document. It is also a research document. I purposely use this word. Research document. Yeah, it's a piece of the whole document, but of course that also need a lot of research. It is a proposal you need to have a lot of research. Project is about. And then what is trying to find out or achieve, the proposal should give a clear idea, a very clear idea of the end product. Yeah. So this is one thing, most of the time, most of us, even when we start, because this is the we are at the beginning of this whole journey. Most of the time what happens is we don't have a clear picture what will be the end like, and what will be the end product. Yeah? But in the proposal preparation stage, we need to convince, especially the funders or the parties who evaluate, what will be our end product is, because they are really interested in it. So we need to give a clear idea, even though, as I said, it is fair enough that we are not that much clear because we are at the beginning of the journey. Yeah, the end product will come out in 3 years or so, or 4 years, or in certain cases 5 years. Yeah, in certain cases it takes 5 years, but we have to have a clear idea as what we are going to deliver at the end of the project, and how it will go about or doing that. That is basically the methodology, and this is something we need to be very carefully, I mean, depending on the institute, especially about the supervisor, the supervisor's capabilities. And this is why I mentioned that we need a lot of research work for this as well, because certain supervisors, they have their own areas that they have mastered, and their research profiles, their projects, their funding agencies, and the methodologies they expect. So we need to conform to those expectations as well in preparing the proposal. And what we will learn from it, and why that is worth learning. Yeah. So which most of the time, these days, I'm working on undergraduate projects. Most of the time what happens is the theoretical part, we like, there is a less focus on the theoretical, concentration of contributions. So that is something we need to give a special attention, particularly in PhD, but even at master's level. What are the theories, at least, that we will, underpin in the study are important. PhD, of course, you will have to definitely work on some of the theories, but in the masters also it is important. So that we have to, the new things, innovations, new contributions is important as well. And the next point is also important because, once now we can tell different things, stories, nice things put forward in the proposal. But remember that we need to deliver that. Keep in mind that we need to, convert that proposal into a project. I mean, you have to carry out that. whatever the proposed things on ground, you need to make them a reality. And that rationale has to be there, because that will be another major criteria of the evaluation. In other sense, that the line between the proposal and the project is very difficult to draw this line, but there should be a line proposal, and then you have to convert to a project, and you should, as I mentioned at the beginning, convince the evaluators that you can transform this proposal into a doable project. And the proposal describes what will be done, that is basically the what question, and the research itself is carried out after the approval. Yeah, so it is what is, and the whole process, the course of actions. Yeah, and I think I described this point, the research part. So we need to do a lot of research before we do. It is not a research, but to do a proposal, we need to do a lot of research. So if you talk to some of, like Manoj has done, and I saw some of the, senior researchers are also in this forum. And if you talk to some of the colleagues that we have, in this network, I'm sure it's a really commendable effort to put all these young colleagues together who have a passion to do research, maybe leading to a higher degree or may not be, but still it's really important to improve or develop the young generation for research. And if you talk to, as I said, some of those seniors who really have worked on those projects, they will tell how difficult and how hard the process they have gone through in preparing the proposal. Because as I said, it takes, I mean, in terms of time, more than 1 year, I would say. If you need to do a very good, solid proposal, it takes more than 1 year. It is not just your supervisor ask the proposal and in 2 weeks, you prepare something and send. You can do that, but it will be end up in the rubbish of the dustbin of the supervisor's office. Yeah, we don't need to, get into that, and we need a lot of groundwork, homework, research, and then only you can put these things into the paper. And there are, as I said, there are two main, approaches where a proposal is required. I'm quickly, trying to throw some ideas so that we can enter into the discussion. Yeah. So the first thing is the university context, as I said earlier. So where the issue is approval of the dissertation for the research proceed. Now, this is what in the universities we do. Yeah. So these are two clear demarcations. So remember this very clearly, because most of you all are trying to work on some funding. Yeah, but this is the theoretical aspect or the academic part of it. Equally, the funding part or the project justification is also necessary. So one part is this academic or the university context, where they are looking into the methodology, the rationale, the novelty, the contributions and things. Yeah. So the research proceed to enable the graduate student to complete honors or masters or doctorate. So you need to basically convince the supervisor that you can complete this one within the given period of time, 2 years or 2 years masters, or 3 or 4 or 5 PhD. So the supervisor or the evaluation board must be convinced that you can complete this. Yeah, basically, as I said at the beginning, you need to convince if you need to get the opportunity. Yeah? And the second is the competitive grant context, where we put forward some proposals, research proposals, to win some grants. Now, most of you, I think some of you from the university crowd, they are familiar with the AHEAD project, which are competitive project proposals. Of course, those are not research, but some projects that we have put forward to the World Bank. And presently, we are working on Sabaragamu and Uwavela, so both we are working on an EU grant on sustainable tourism development. Yeah, that is also a competitive grant. So we need to put forward a proposal, and then that will be evaluated, and then some revisions, and finally. So the point, once again, is the most important thing is these are two focuses. The first thing is the university context. The second thing is the competitive grant context. Yeah. So I will come back to, in detail about the evaluation and where for example, okay, I will finish it here. If it is, something like in the in the evaluation scale 69 below, you will get the placement, but not the funding. It's simple as that. In good universities, I'm talking about, in good universities. Yeah. If your proposal is ranked 70 above, most probable that you are going to get the placement as well as the funding both. Yeah. But that will also be competitive. Let's say the department or the school having, or the supervisor, particular supervisor having 3 placements for 3 projects. Yeah. The top 3 will be given. Simple as that. And you, if you need the funding, you have to be in that top 3. But there are also universities and countries who are like, if you bring in the funding, there is no problem. Now, as I said, from the AHEAD project, we have sent a lot to New Zealand, to UK, and to, you know, those countries since World Bank or the, you know, the AHEAD project pays them. That's not that much of a difficult thing, because the proposal will be, you know, even 69 to somewhere like 55 or 55 plus to 69 will be, you know, proposal will be approved for the placement. Yeah. And subject to the funding availability, you have to bring in the funding. But if you need to win both the placement and the funding, yeah, should be minimum 80, I mean 79 or above, 69. Yeah, but that also something to do with the number of grants available. If the school or the project or the supervisor having 1 or 2, I mean the top 2, 3 will get it. Yeah, so you need to be very clear on that. Yeah, when you prepare proposals. And the questions, like most of the time, like general concentrations on this one, like proposal. Is the proposed research feasible or doable? That I think I have discussed this quite a lot on this by now. So basically, I mean, it should be practical, simple as that. I told this even. Yeah. The second thing, is the research worth doing? Yeah, now we have, you know, different funding agencies, like even universities itself, faculties, they also have research funds. Yeah, at university level, the National Research Foundation, we have different other bodies they are funding. But one important thing is the research worth doing? Yeah, now last couple of, you know, at the beginning of this COVID-19 pandemic, there were a lot of innovations and proposals came to World Bank, asking for funding for development of automated robots, or, you know, carriers, messengers, and things like that. Yeah, got a lot of, you know, funding even. But we need to make sure that it is something that, you know, it produces some promising results. Yeah, and so what is important is whether the proposed thing can be done or doable or practical, or is it a reality on ground. And point number 2 is also related to that one. Can the candidate do it? That is the second question. Maybe the project can, yes, but candidate. So this is where the defense coming in. Yeah, and when you, I mean, you have to have a solid understanding and a capability to defend what you propose. Yeah, so you're the candidate. If you put forward the proposal, you must be able to defend it, and you must know the ABC, the ground, and whatever those probing questions, yeah, cross-checking, should be easily addressed by you, since you're the candidate. Yeah, so there are 2 things, as I said. The first thing is whether the project is practical and rational and can, you know, be done on ground. And the second thing, whether it is possible by this particular candidate. That is also important. A project may be possible, but the candidate may not be suitable for that one. So that is also important. You should prove that you are the candidate to do this on ground. Yeah. And thirdly, done, okay, if both okay, will it produce a successful dissertation? That is the other thing. Yeah. Now the first 2 things, okay, now I have come across these kind of students, especially undergraduate. They come out with nice projects. Yeah, doable. Yeah, funding also fairly okay, and the candidate also confident that candidate can. But this is another issue. You need to earn the degree. Yeah, if done, you need to produce a successful dissertation from that. Yeah, at whatever the level expected. I mean, as I said, maybe the undergraduate level or master's level or the PhD level, even postdoc level. Yeah, postdoc. So there are three things. Once again, I'm coming back to the beginning. The project should be practical. The candidate should be able to do it himself. And the third one, you should produce a report or a dissertation from that one. And number 4, yeah, the review committee used the proposal to judge both the viability of the proposed research and ability of the candidate to carry out it. So one thing is the viability of the project. The second thing is the skill level or the ability of the candidate to, complete the project. Yeah. And the what question we have discussed. So coming back to in-depth information about the proposal. So the research proposal should present your idea or the question, and also the expected outcomes. I told you all at the beginning. Expected outcomes. What are the things that you're going to generate from this one? The expected outcomes with clarity and definition. So it should be crystal clear. It should be very, no one is going to read a like, for example, I mean, so I'm sure you all are working on some reputed universities and reputed professors or researchers, and can you imagine how many proposals they get? Yeah, how many proposals they get to evaluate? So your one should be something special for them to pick. Yeah, so clarity and definition is that one that has to be there. And the second thing, so what question is that one? Yeah, present your idea and the question very clearly. And secondly, the why question, where it should also make a case as to why your question is significant. Yeah, what contribution? So what is the importance of it? Why we should spend that much of a money on this? Why? Yeah. So you need to, like, what value it will bring into your discipline. Basically, as we discussed at somewhere at the beginning, the knowledge or the theoretical contributions, and from the other end, the empirically what values to the industry it will generate. And these two are also equally important. So the what context is your question, and why question is whether it is feasible and whether it will make some impact into the knowledge and to the industry. Yeah. So why the proposal is important? Yeah. So we discussed some of the clause points for the proposal to be important, but in further depth, yeah, it is why formally outlines your integrated research. I mean, this is a communication tool, I would say. This is a bridge, like the first communication that you are trying to establish between yourself and to the professor, supervisor, or to the university, or to the funding agency. Yeah. So whatever that agency that you're trying to produce the proposal, I'm just talking a little bit broad. This is not just targeting only on the higher degrees, but even for project, because there are a lot of proposals you need to prepare to be qualified for some certain grants. Especially there are a lot of grants actually from different fields, different grants, different agencies. They give a lot of grants, ATB and all those kind of bodies. Yeah. So those proposals also we need to include here, but we will specifically think on when you do your proposals for higher degrees. Yeah, which means you need to provide details on how you will go about your research, including your approach and methodology. This I think is something you need to prove, as we discussed somewhere at the beginning as well. So research approach. Now these are certain things, as I said, you need to find out from a lot of research. Yeah, depending on the type of study, the field, the supervisor, the school, and depending on all these things, you need to craft the approach and the methodology. I mean, you need to suggest basically based on the supervisor's interest as well. There are, I'm sure Manoj will have a better experience, even I have. Sometimes you can't do what you want. Yeah. So you have to listen to your supervisor and to the school and their project requirements. So you need to adjust. Remember that. Yeah. So in that sense, yeah, what I personally did was, I did, 2 objectives for my professor and to the school, and 1 objective for me. Yeah. So I have to, we have to be flexible as that. Yeah. So those are, some of the experiences that I can share in detail in the couple of last minutes. But the approach and methodology has to be like very clearly explained in your proposal. Yeah. And the timeline is also important. We will also discuss on the components of a proposal, the timeline that you are going to do what, yeah, in the first couple of months, the second, third, what, yeah, second year, at the end of the third year, what, yeah, all that you need to highlight. And the feasibility, time feasibility, that is the other thing. Yeah, some of the proposals I see, they say in the end of the first year, so many things, but maybe not. Yeah, you finish the survey even, no way. Yeah, the supervisor will say, no, you can't do that. Supervisor will say, you go back and study on your literature. That is how supervisors won't allow you to go into those things until 1.5 years in a PhD. Yeah, so you have to do your groundwork, reading, field, the literature. Yeah, 1.5, 50% will be literature, and then only you should enter into doing it. Yeah, so timeline and feasibility is also very important in drafting the proposal. And all other considerations needed to progress your research, such as resources, the budget basically that we have to keep, whatever the budget expectations. Yeah. So it has a tool that will help you to clarify your idea and make conducting your research easier. So it's, as I said, it is going to be a bridge, it is going to be a tool, it is a communication method with your supervisor and agency or whatever. These are all words that I can use to tell about your proposal. The length, as to what length that we can finish the proposal, it depends actually. And always we would like to write more, give more. But remember, the bigger the book, the probability to throw into the dustbin is higher. As I said, say for example, a top professor in management field, or whatever the field you are talking about, finance or whatever, no, that professor might get thousands of such proposals. You see how many people are. I'm sure you know that Pakistan is trying, India is trying, China is trying, and how many students are interested in such a supervisor. And if you're trying, a good supervisor of a good university, yeah, so you must give a concise proposal, concise one, and an appealing one. Yeah, so it should be very concise. Those big dissertations, big things will not give you anything more other than some disadvantages. But check the requirements of your degree. Of course, better because different universities, different departments, they have their own formats and guidelines, and your supervisor or the research coordinator. Now, those are things that you need to, we call it basically in simple terms, customization. Yeah? You submit a proposal to University A, and you cannot submit the same to University B. Remember this. This is just time wasting. And I have been, I have been doing this. I have been doing this for about 3-4 years, and I got fed up. Yeah, and even I got an opportunity in a different university, but I didn't like personally. Yeah, that was supposed to do something on the war and Northeast and pursue it. Yeah, so those are some of to make sure that things we do are responsible as well. Yeah, so basically you need to customize it into the degree requirements, into the particular requirements of the institute or the university, and to your supervisor, and if you have the coordinator or whoever. Yeah, you need to specifically address to those people. Yeah, and presenting your idea clearly and concisely demonstrate that you can write this way, and because you're going to produce, as we discussed at the beginning, and then writing. Writing is critically important. Never submit, as it is. Just check it from, your people. Get, I have received a proposal today to, before submit to the school. I need to go through it, well, maybe in a couple of days. But the point I'm making is, you need to make sure the writing even. I mean, we are also not perfect people, but at least to show it to several people and get ideas of those people, criticisms, and then try to, see what others think about your proposal. And when I'm sure social media, you have seen, there is a common slide that is shared, common post which is shared, how you think about your proposal and how your supervisor sees your proposal. So that's a funny thing, but which is the fact, because the outsiders, the third party, will see it very differently, even though we are thinking of our stuff. Even the paper, it is the same logic. So these are some quick guidelines to address. Who will read my proposal, and to whom we are going to, whether it's ADB, World Bank, AHEAD project, the university school, the supervisor, the research funding agency, the scholarship body, whoever. I mean, that you have to clearly keep in mind who will read the proposal. And secondly, what will their expectations be? As we discussed earlier also, whether the funding, what do they need actually? Now we know, for example, in the UK, New Zealand, Australia, nowadays this entrepreneurship, female empowerment, the indigenous communities and empowerment, sustainability are critical projects where a lot of funding is available. Especially women empowerment, or indigenous communities, less privileged groups and communities, and sustainability, economic development, and sustainable employabilities and things like that. These are very famous topics and projects which those governments funds. Now those countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and UK, the government funds the body, the research institutes, and they get the funding for those projects, and the students they recruit are for those projects, and they need to work on those areas. Remember that. So you go to study things like that. Entrepreneurship is another emerging area, and the family businesses and things like that. The success factors nowadays, of course, COVID-19 and business transformation and things, a lot more funding is diverted to those areas. So you need to look into the details of such expectations. Such expectations in drafting the proposal and convincing. What are the process of approval? And that you have to have an idea. The process, what kind of a process that you need to go through, whether it is directly, first, there are certain universities that you need to establish the relationship with the supervisor first and discuss, and then to the postgraduate office and the administration and the coordinator, and then finally they will forward your thing into the funding agency. So that is a different process. Or some others, they have directly the scholarship, and you need to get a supervisor. So likewise, there is a procedure and a process depending on particular body or the institute. So that you need to be, be clear before you put forward a proposal. And what departmental or university guidelines? Now, this is the one I was talking about at the beginning as well. So now at the end of, I have one or two documents from different universities. Each and every university or the body or funding agency that you are focusing at will have their own expectations and, I would say formats. And you have to have a clear idea and a detailed study you have to do on that one. And are there for my proposal and its presentation? I mean, most of them, they have their own guidelines. Now, let's say Harvard, Melbourne, Massey or whatever. Those universities, they have their own guidelines, which you need to prepare your proposal on, based on. Now, these are some of the common areas, of the 2000 words. Let's 2000 words. I mean, that will be different, said, depending on the organization. Yeah. So the type will be concise and a clear one and a catchy one, as I said, catchy one, because they will first look at the title. And if the title is in the areas of funding, as I said in the beginning, maybe women empowerment, the family businesses, COVID-19 and business transformation, likewise, whatever the title is, something on the funding areas, then of course you can proceed on that. And the research supervisor. Yeah. So this, I mean, whoever the supervisor, you need to mention that on the thing. And proposed mode of research. Yeah, it may be, field work, the desk work, or, whatever the mode. Aims and objectives, clear-cut objectives. Yeah. Synopsis, you need to depend. I mean, these are the content, common, parts of a body of a proposal, but this may be different, I mean, from organization to another. Yeah. And the background, the expected research contributions that you are trying to end of the project, what are the things that you will contribute. Yeah. And proposed methodology. Yeah, we discussed that at the beginning. Yeah. Work plan, most of the time it is going to be the Gantt chart. Yeah. Everyone is interested in this. This Gantt chart should be a key, I mean, essential component of the proposal and the resources. Basically, it is going to be the budget. Now, these are, as I said, some common components of a comprehensive research proposal. But I mean, some of those organizations, they will have their own, subtitles and the components defined in their given formats, which you need to be have an understanding and flow when you prepare. And finally, the bibliography. I would like to take a special note on that as well. I have one experience. I'm sure I have shared this idea with some of you who are in this group as well already. But when I was a PhD student, my professor got a proposal from another country, and he went through it, and he just wanted my idea also. He just passed to me, go through the proposal and give me some suggestions. I went through. It was basically on tourism economics, and I went through, and it was fine. There was nothing wrong for me. I said, this is fine, and it's a good proposal, was my idea. And I told that to my professor, and he showed me the bibliography, the reference list. And it was, the first one was Wikipedia. He said, no way, this cannot, yeah. So you have to be very careful on that one. Yeah, the bibliography. I mean, you have to have up-to-date stuff. Yeah, it is not very old stuff. Yeah, and some very good reliable sources. I mean, some leading top journals from, the citations should be. Yeah. So that was the end of that proposal, and he just put that away. Yeah. So the student never got an opportunity. So the point I'm making is, this is a key component most of the time. Maybe some 10%, I would say. 10% marks will be for this. Yeah. So the bibliography is equally important. The sources, the up-to-date information, yeah, which authors you're citing about the particular, because now, for example, if it is finance, if it is investment, if it is entrepreneurship, if it is customer care, yeah, likewise, there will be some top researchers. Yeah, service quality, Kandampuli is one of the top. Yeah, and Parasuraman, and I'm sure if you are talking about service quality, there should be Parasuraman. Definitely, you have to cite. Without Parasuraman, if you're putting a proposal for service quality, I think something wrong on that. Yeah, and that was the beginning of circle model. And today it is J. Kandampuli, the service marketing man. Yeah, so likewise, you have to identify those key personnel and cite them. Yeah, cite them. So bibliography is equally important in the proposal. And there are some of the tips that I can share with you all. The covering letter, because whatever it is, we all are human beings. We are trying to get an opportunity from a person. So they are also human beings. So this covering letter will be a very strong point you need to start with. I mean, to convincing the particular person to proceed, at least to read your proposal to see whether it is feasible. The covering letter is going to be very important. Yeah. And number two is start with a short executive summary. Yeah. In a proposal, yeah, maybe for funding, maybe for a grant or a body. Yeah, there is a question. I will come back to that one. Yeah, start with the executive summary. Yeah, so this is something also convincing now. Now, as I said at the beginning, those people are very busy. They get thousands of proposals, and therefore they will first go through, it's like the abstract of the research paper, yeah? This executive summary, and that summary will take you, will be the guide for the next part. Yeah? So the title is important, and then the cover letter, and then the executive summary. Most of the time it is even title and executive summary, rather, the cover letter. Cover letter, of course, it's a formal thing, but even cover letter can play a role. Yeah. And then the organization, what about yourself? Yeah, to give some idea whether your universities and programs you have done follow. I mean, that will add value to you. Yeah, because those people, they definitely search. Yeah, they are going to search what university you graduated from. Yeah, what program with supervisor, and they will check that supervisor whether some of them definitely they are going to ask your undergraduate or master thesis. Yeah, for them to study. Yeah, and write a direct problem statement. And then state your goals and objectives. I think these things we have discussed at the beginning, somewhere at the beginning also. The goals and objectives that you have. Yeah, project design, methods and strategies. Yeah, and evaluation section, tracking the success. So whether this also we discuss about the expectations of evaluation criteria and things, and the funding sources and sustainability. If it is a project specifically, where it is going to be funded. Yeah, you have to frankly mention, I have this project, but I don't have the funding. Yeah, I'm looking for funding. Or if you have some, opportunities, at least you can mention university funding, that scholarship, this scholarship, or whatever, you can mention that is for the and the budget. Yeah. And the other thing is that evaluation criteria. I think I have one in my hand. I will just read it out. But change from institution to institution, as I said. This is the purpose of whether it is funding or placement. I discuss about the difference between these two, but will generally have a big impact of the reviewers, because they all are given what in our university for a research grant, if there is a proposal, what we'll do is we will appoint 2 reviewers, one from inside and one from the outside, and then we will send with the evaluation criteria. Yeah, I have one from the Lanka University, UK, and you see the first 25 marks for the goals, objectives, questions, and hypotheses in this evaluation criteria for 2021 for the PhD proposal. This one is for PhD proposals. Goals, objectives, questions, and hypotheses, they give 25%. Yeah. The rationale is also 25%. Yeah. Under rationale, they mention the solid and valid information to support, your questions and things. Whether you have solid, and this is where I was talking about the bibliography. Yeah. And also the personal knowledge and understanding of the subject. Now, this is where your contribution is looked at. Yeah. Whether you have a clear understanding of the things. These are the points that I mentioned, for example, about this service quality and things. So whether you have an understanding about the thesis. And next, the relevance, the accuracy, consistency, and all those things. So basically, the rationale is given 25%. And the methodology, another 20%. And the bibliography is given 15%. Yeah, presents a relevant scholarly bibliography of no less than 12 references. So that is a standard of, they have, I mean, not less than 12. So it more the better, but too much will, make your proposal bigger as well. So somewhere, 12 plus, depending on the total length of the proposal. Yeah, prepare a personal and articulated annotated paragraph of, some, even if you can, like, if you have your own, in your, let's say you have worked on, as we discussed at the beginning, service marketing for your master's degree. And if you have something to cite from that work, that we will continue into the next level, and that will be a plus as well. Yeah, so that is something you can think of. If you have a good publication, you can think of that as well if you are continuing on the same area. Yeah, the contribution of the project to the field. Yeah, the design and the feasibility of the project. Yeah, the validity and the methodology of the objectives, supervise, and their role in the field. Yeah, so these are, these are the critical things, I would say. Supervisor, the field and their role. Yeah, all these things. Methodology. So basically, methodology also, normally it is somewhere 20% in this the form I have in my hand for Lancashire. Yeah, and the overall presentation, the writing, the quality, and all those things also, like 10%. Yeah, and there is another 5% that supervisor or the evaluation team can play around. If there is a verbal or a viva, yeah, for the proposal, that will be the that 5%. Yeah, and then the evaluation criteria, the proposed research feasible or doable, that we discussed. Is the research worth doing? That also we discussed. If done, okay, that is also we discussed about the dissertation thing. And in other words, yeah, those things I think we have discussed in the beginning. Yeah. Now these are some of the, before I conclude my quick throw on these ideas. I have, I think, 5 more minutes to go on the presentation. So common errors that normally that I also have personally, as I said, nowadays I'm going through some undergraduate proposals and several postgraduate, so that we observe. Yeah, losing focus. The person or the student candidate propose himself is loose from here and there. Yeah, having a clear sense of direction. There is no clear sense. This is where I am. This is where I want to go, and that clear direction is not available. And the candidate itself is still, running here and there. Like the proposal is like a patchwork thing, from something from here, something from there, and there is no clear direction. It should be a very clear direction from A to B or A to Z. Yeah, so that has to be very clearly put into the paper. Yeah, so clear focus, number one. Number two, being able to provide a proper context and frame the research question. Research question should be framed like very clearly and logically. Yeah, the formulation of the and point number three, failing to delimit the boundary walls of the proposed research. That is the other thing, especially when you talk about the findings, contributions, there are a lot more boundaries going here and there. You need to know the delimitations, basically the boundaries. Now, this is my boundary scope, is that, yeah? And the point 4, where, the error, most of the, of the common errors, yeah? Failing to cite important studies. Now, this I discussed, but it is, as I said, yeah? If you take whatever, if it is a cultural, heritage tourism, maybe Alan Timothy, definitely you have to talk about Timothy. Yeah, if it is tourism geography, Alan Liu, definitely you have to include that one. Likewise, now those are some of the researchers that I'm familiar with from the field I'm working on. But you must have a very clear idea about the top researchers who are top work which you are thinking of or in your line, and that understanding has to be there. They will check whether those things, if there is a lapse and incorrect references, Yeah, that had to be, has to be very solid list of the bibliography. And following to make reference to key authors in the relevant that we discussed. So you have to have a clear idea of that one. And following to accurately present the theoretical conceptual framework. The other thing is the conceptual framework. Yeah, that should definitely you have to craft and extract from the literature. That you have to strongly propose in the proposal, drawing from the literature. Yeah. And the error number 7 is to stay focused. That the question itself is not focused. Yeah, the first thing is the proposal and the project is not focused. And point number 7 is that the question is not focused. What is the question exactly? Now, this question, I have asked more than 10, 20 times in proposal debate. So, what is your question? There should be exact, clear research question. Yeah, that the person is going to explore or work on. Yeah, and failure number 8. Develop a coherent and persuasive argument for the proposed research study as to why it is significant and important, and the reason for you to do it, and that coherence has to be given. Yeah, and the failure or the weak points. Number 9, the error number 9. Too long or too short at the time of shipping in much details or trivial issues. Sometimes, yeah, when you read proposals, you find very trivial things. You, make the molehill a mountain. Yeah, very small thing you make it big, but the big things you forget to highlight, spot on. Yeah, that the things you need to focus more. You need to focus more. Yeah? And bad writing multiplied by the failure to follow the most of the time proposals are rejected. Most of the time, yeah, articles, proposals, project, guides rejected because the format is not followed. The format is not followed, and that is something you need to critically adhere to. Whatever the format is given, you have to adhere to that one. Yeah. And follow the instructions. See, the first point that I'm starting with. Yeah, whatever the instructions given, questions are there. I will come back to them one by one once I finish, maybe another 2 minutes. Yeah, break down your proposals into points from before writing your first draft. Yeah, so first you need to draft, outline your ideas into a paper, and then only you have to put that into the the format. Yeah, first you need to put that just whatever comes to your mind, and then order them, and then get the support from the literature. Yeah, know your audience. Yeah, we discussed that one. Exactly, you have to have a very clear idea about the audience who are going to read and give you the verdict. Yeah, make an impact in the first few sentences. Now, this I told you all, whether this going to be like a workable thing, continue the project, whether the supervisors are going to read it, and all that depends on the first few sentences. Yeah, and have a clear title that we discussed. Emphasize the multidisciplinary aspects of the proposal. Now, this is something area that which is emerging. Yeah, many agencies are today proposing multidisciplinary aspects of research. It's not just one specific area, but they are trying to work on, for example, pharmaceuticals. There will be some lab work, some social research, some the opinion surveys and things. So it's going to be a huge project. You will be just a part of that one. Yeah, maybe you're doing something marketing. Yeah, or some social aspects of a drug development. But there will be, this is just from a huge project, one small thing. Now, those multidisciplinary aspects you need to think of as well. Clearly indicate how your research or scholarship will make a contribution to knowledge that we also discussed. So these are some of the final points that I need to highlight to go on. And get the proposal reviewed and commented by others. That also we discussed. So you need to get the comment from several people, at least 3 I will recommend before you go, some seniors, some peers and colleagues, so that you can verify whether things are in line before some third eye, third party view before you proceed to the supervisors. The other thing is, remember that nothing is set in stone and everything changes. Now, this is the last point I need to highlight. As I said, I could not do what I wanted. Simple like that. I'm sure you have to change a lot. Yeah, it is not the one you want is the one they want. Yeah. So you need to understand this this reality and then be flexible. Yeah. I think that's it. These are some of the. I mean, I don't need to open one by one, but you can follow these. Any university. Most of these are some common ones like Harvard, Oxford, Birmingham. Yeah, I have the one in hand, Lancashire. Likewise, they have their own guidelines and proposal formats which you can refer to. Yeah. So Dr. Mano, that's from about the presentation, but we have a few questions in the chat box.
Yeah, Professor Rohan Ranasinghe, thank you very much for this mind-blowing and definitely very interesting and insightful speech of yours regarding the proposal development. Actually, thank you very much for going an extra mile to share your personal experience about proposal development. I know, and the audience, he was kind of my mentor when I was joined with the Uvelas way back 2012 and helped me to pursue my PhD placement as well, right? So that is the most important thing. There has to be this resource sharing and the knowledge sharing and be with the right team, and that is why we are trying to introduce here with the Sri Lanka research community. And adding on to Professor Ruan's very nice presentation, let me share a brief thing about what I experienced when I was developing the research proposal and myself being a kind of a supervisor on different levels of postgraduate studies. And it might, I mean, if the space permits you, please think about the potential theoretical contribution, as Professor Ranasinghe mentioned, and the potential methodological contributions and the potential empirical contributions in your proposal as well. They are also some key areas that your supervisors might be looking at. And again, Professor, we had a very nice session like 2 weeks back with some invited professors from New Zealand, Australia, and another professor from Peradeniya. And most of the occasions, they said they are receiving the same email. The entire faculty members are receiving the same email from one candidate. And that is, Professor Ranasinghe also mentioned the same thing. And we need to customize those emails, right, according to these our potential supervisors' expectations, what they're looking at. And also, please be familiarized with what they have done, right? Not quoting from the Wikipedia, not citing from some other small articles appearing here and there or web sources. But if you're going to find a good supervisor, be familiar with his work, right? And his lab mates' works, his research team's works. And then you will get some better results, right? And then your potential supervisor might be interested in reading your proposal, because why? Every day he's going to get at least a couple of research proposals, right, from different parts of the world, and end of the month it could be hundreds. So you need to stand out, right, out of that big piles without directly going into their the dustbin. Okay. And it is also important that you select the timely important topics, maybe if it is something development related, if it is entrepreneurship, or now we have the new normal situation with the COVID-19. So try to find out some cutting edge topics or the buzz topics that your supervisor might interest at you. And as Professor Ranasinghe correctly mentioned, your supervisor will definitely change it to a certain extent, maybe 50%, maybe 75%. Actually, even you might also feel that you need to change your PhD proposal when you start diving into the pool of knowledge, pool of literature. Actually, it happened to me personally. I went to pursue my PhD with the heritage tourism, but I ended up with something else because I identified, okay, my gap is something else, right, that I should be looking at. So when you start reading, when you get more experience, when you expose yourself to a bigger pool of knowledge, you will understand, okay, this is what I should be doing. This is what my contribution should be. So don't get yourself, I mean, deviated, right? But that is the learning process. And and referring to the bibliographics, Professor Ranasinghe correctly mentioned, right? Cite the best articles that you'll find, and we already spoke about the SSCI articles, ABDC articles, A ranks, A star ranks, right? And pay attention to the recent development of the literature, especially during the last 5 years, and it will help you out to identify this theoretical gap, especially if you're going to apply for the MPhil or a PhD study, right? And you can really hit the target with those research gaps. And again, I thank Professor Ranasinghe for mentioning all those points. And I'm sure you didn't get such advices from your supervisors when you were applying for the PhD. Now that we are so happy, Professor Ranasinghe is there, and we all to share his valuable experience with us. Professor, now we can move into the questions. I will pick the questions and forward it to you, Professor. Right. And the first question comes from Mr. Ravindra.
Fine, no problem.
Yeah. First question comes from Mr. Ravindra. I hope he's our good friend from Jaffna University, referring to how many research papers are desirable. Are there any criteria to indicate the volume of literature? Professor?
Well, that, of course, yeah, once again, it depends, as I mentioned. Like if you have covered the core, maybe 3 or 4, you are safe, but then it depends on your justifications. For example, as I said, let's say it is service marketing, maybe Parasuraman, maybe J. Kandampuli, or few more, 3 more. So your core will be 5 or 6, but more than that will be whatever the other methodological and other, depending on the objectives. But I mean, it depends on the subject. But something in this particular example, as I mentioned from Lanka, they say minimum 12, yeah. And more than that, minimum 12, no less than 12 is the report. I mean, evaluation criteria says in Lancaster. So they will have 5 marks for that one. Yeah. So that depends, as I mentioned, from the institute to institute. But minimum, I would say 5 or 6 for the core. Yeah. For core issue, you have to have 5 or 6. I would say not less than that. But the overall list should be something desirably 10 plus. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Professor. And now we have another question referring to one of your previous slides on the sections of the PhD proposal. In part 11 of the research proposal, why it has been mentioned as bibliography, whereas in many places it has been mentioned as reference.
Yeah, but there is a clear difference between these two. Reference is you are directly citing the stuff in the proposal and then you refer it. But bibliography is something you read, especially when you develop research questions, proposals. Maybe certain sources. I mean, you will cite. I mean, will not cite essentially, but are very important things. So that is why I purposely use the word bibliography. But if the format says reference list, definitely you have to use the reference list. But bibliography is even more open than the stuff you cite directly on the proposal. You also can use other sources in it. I mean, it is broader than the reference list. But if it depends. Once again, some organizations in the format it is bibliography, but most of the, as the question says, most of the organizations it is references. In that case, definitely you have to include the ones you have cited. Yeah, so bibliography will be whatever the things that even you read, you can include. But when you develop questions, something you heard from a person and things, all those things will be important. So that is why, to be more broad, I have included the term bibliography.
Thank you, Professor. And Chamara forwards us a question. How many gaps need to be included in a proposal in common? For example, performance gap, knowledge gap, theoretical gap, or empirical gap, etc.
Well, that, I mean, it is also like maybe theoretical gap is critically important. Yeah, critically important, and even the methodological gap and the empirical gap. I mean, these 3 minimum you have to have. Yeah, the theoretical gap and the empirical gap and the methodological gap. Especially, I'm focusing on a PhD proposal. These 3 should be there. Yeah, so I mean that's the minimum. Definitely, those 3 should be there. I mean, you're formulating a research problem, and for that, from all those directions, you have to justify the gaps. Minimum those 3, and more the better.
Thank you, Professor. Kasun asked a question about whether to have one research objective or one main research objective plus sub-objectives.
That is how I think it goes. I mean, your whole proposal or the whole process should be able to describe in 1 or 2 sentences, which is the main objective of this one, and then you will have derive several questions to work on, workable areas, depending on the scope, and all those let's say 3 or 4, even in a PhD maybe even 5 objectives. Yeah, so something 3 to 5 I would say. Yeah, minimum maybe 3, and you can go up to 5, something like that. It is once again depending on the scope and the extent that your theoretical gaps allowed you to go. Yeah, depending on all these things, and even the at the proposal level, I would suggest something 3 to 5.
Right. Thank you, Professor. We have questions about the interview methods. Actually, it is not something that we should address in this platform. This is about the PhD proposal development, and about the methods, research tools. We have different programs lined up.
I'm from India. May I ask something?
Yeah. Please do. Yeah.
So thank you very much for a wonderful discussion. Actually, I am from India. I'm teaching in a university. We are the only university in eastern part of India, University of Bardhaman. It is near to Kolkata. You might be knowing. So we are offering PhD in tourism and masters in tourism. And we used to get students from all over India and abroad. And a few years back, I had been to NKS in Sri Lanka in Colombo, and I met some of the scholars. They are from different discipline: management, tourism, economics, sociology. So my main question, or you can say observation, is that at Sri Lanka, it's an island country, water-based country. So if we give a thrust on water-related tourism and tourism linked with nature and adventure, that will give a new dimension to Sri Lanka tourism. And those who are interested to train the people, those who are in tourism field, okay, whether in academic or in industry, so we can organize a program so that students or the candidate, scholar or student, they can enrich themselves through different types of interaction. Now, research is very relevant. Okay, so where they are conducting research in institute or university, and what type of guidance they are getting, what type of research methodology they are following, what type of research journal they are following. So these are the very crucial thing. And my submission to all the delegates and experts, that you please write some proposal highlighting tourism resources of Sri Lanka, tourism assets of Sri Lanka, and how we can develop the tourism scenario of Sri Lanka, and how the human resource they can get training through the resources through a workshop and training. Thank you very much. If you have any query, you can ask me. I have given my email also and my contact details also in the chat box. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Abdul. Professor Anasinghe, any comment about that?
Well, thank you so much for the comments, and it was just a kind of instruction or a comment for the candidates about the tourism proposals, about the nature, adventure, and those potentials about Sri Lanka, which is of course, yes, because post-COVID tourism will be different, and those new areas we will have to think of. And it's a good idea that Mr. Abdul suggested when they propose the proposals for research to concern those areas. So thank you very much for your comments.
Right. We have another question about from Sangeet. Sir, when we write in the research review, can we directly put the exact words of the certain resource has mentioned with put in citation, or or do we need to put that idea with our own words always? It's about some citation issues, Professor.
Well, yeah, that is obvious. If you directly you can quote, yes. I mean, there is a limitation on that. Well, I mean, your whole proposal cannot be direct citations, but it should be clearly mentioned within the inverted commas, and then it is okay. It is allowed, and also then you need to, justify as to why you did that and what is the relevance and importance and all that you have to discuss in your own words as well. If you're citing that, that is allowed, but not much.
Right. Dhanusha has a question about this time duration of the literature. To which time period do we have to pay attention to? It's like 5 years period of a literature gap or the 10 years, etc.
Well, that is in a PhD, like you have to first start from the beginning. I mean, if I'm directly looking at a PhD, the chronological you have to address, but for the problem formulation, I would say latest, maybe not later than 5-6 years. Yeah, for the problem formulation, the core issue formulation, but the chronological order of the thesis, I mean the development of the topic, you have to start from the beginning, and then time to time, let's say from 1960 you start, 61, 70, 80, likewise you have to come. And for the key problem, I was talking about the core 5 or 6, and those will be something very recent. But chronological order is also important to show that you have an understanding about how this particular thesis or a subject or the topic has been evolving over the period. So chronological order is critically important. So this is why I mentioned the core will be last 5 or 6 years or so, and the rest will be also in chronological order as well, because that is something that you have to prove that you have the understanding of as to how this area or the topic has been evolved over time.
Thank you, Professor. Kasun has a second question about citing the newspaper articles, Professor.
Single and English, that is fine. Yes, of course. With problem formulation, that is fine. You can, as long as you can directly link and justify that particular source to your problem formulation. That's all fine. The newspapers are used. There's no problem with that.
Right. That's all the questions we are having right now. Is there anyone else having different questions? You can raise now. You can raise the hand, and we will. You can unmute yourself and speak.
Any other questions? Yes, most welcome. But yeah, at least in the chat box, I think Dr. Manoj, we have taken all the in the chat box, right? I can see 12 new messages, but you have taken them.
Yeah, we took each and every question. We have a new question. So how to cite a verbal statement of a person in social media formation? Actually, regarding the citations and the references, we are going to schedule another workshop. But of course, Professor, you can take the question about these oral communications.
And also, yes, you can, cite. That is fine. The personal communication with so and so in text citation and detail you can give. There is no problem. Personal communications also, for example, the minister says or the president says or whatever, these things we cite. That's also allowed in problem formulation stage, because many like developing nations, we have to cite those personal statements as well.
Right. And Chamra has a question. Could you please elaborate on how to decide the number of questions when we break them down from the research problem?
We have to do a case study, but let's say if it is, like cultural impact of where I have worked on my PhD, so then that was the basic question that I, socio-cultural impacts of tourism, and that was divided into the main community, the indigenous community. Likewise, you have to look in from different other perspectives. So you will have the main thesis or the major focus, which is the key question. And within that periphery, you have to identify some other observable questions. Like, as I said, it is also like, something depending on your particular topic that you are focusing on. Now, ecotourism, like in that, like, let's say the community impacts of it, the positive ones, the negative ones, community expectations, likewise, the major one will be there, but inside that, yeah, you can divide into some observable other small aspects of the within the main circle. Yeah. So that once again, that I would say in one word, if I need to answer that question, it is read. Yeah. You need to read the thesis. I mean the area, and then you will have kind of a workable periphery for you to think of.
And let me share another thing. I just want to pick up something that emerged during our last webinar on the expectations of the PhD supervisors. Very clearly, Professor Heike and other foreign professors joined with us the other day, mentioned that we need to customize our research proposal according to the requirements and the areas of interest of the potential supervisors. And that is one of the main mistakes done by our students or the potential PhD candidates here, because they develop one particular research proposal and keep on sending the same thing with the same covering letter to all the hundreds of potential supervisors they find in the internet, and that really doesn't help. You need to at least change the introduction, the methodology, and the conclusion and the potential contribution, plus cite in some good articles of that particular professor. And again, when you are going to find a good PhD supervisor, please pay attention to their scholar accounts, maybe Google Scholar, Publon accounts, ORCID accounts, right? And make sure that they are sound in their area of discipline, and to which extent their works have been cited by other scholars. It will increase the recognition of your PhD thesis, saying that, okay, you have worked under a kind of a sound academic in your respected field of study. Any other questions, the audience? Is that all? Are we good to wind up? I think that's it. Professor, please stop share, because we need to take a nice screenshot with
Okay,
you.
sure.
And please switch on the camera if possible. Yeah. Great. And again, on behalf of Sri Lanka research community, I take this opportunity to thank Professor Wan Ranasinghe to conduct this particular webinar on how to develop an A-grade research proposal. And today, joined with us about 145 participants, especially from different universities in Sri Lanka. And with that, I'm inviting Miss, Professor, do you have any final words before our vote of thanks?
Adding to one, Dr. Manoj mentioned last, today actually it is most of the time what works with the networks. It is rather, most of the time it is just useless, like you find from the internet and sending emails. So it goes on networks. So is more, this is how it works in the world. So if you have already some established relationships, some of your seniors, some of those colleagues, through them, if you approach, that will work. That personally, I'm telling you, I have a lot of other experiences sending students to different supervisors based on the personal network, and that is very effective. So I advise you all to work on that rather, keep on sending emails, because you will get fed up. Yeah, that's my final advice. So try to establish some good, solid networks with the top researchers, going into attending to seminars or conferences, and get to know people, and then through that, doing attractive presentation that you are able to do something, convince, and then go to those people and talk to them, and then you will get it. Yeah, that's my final advice that I can give you all, because just keep on sending emails won't work. Yeah. All the best and good luck.
Thank you very much, Professor Ranasinghe, for joining with us today. So I'm inviting Ms. Rasanjali again to propose the vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Dear professors, sir, ma'am, and colleges, it is also my duty to propose the vote of thanks today. First and foremost, I would like to thank to this eminent speaker of today's webinar, Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe, who shared his knowledge and experiences with us. Dear sir, your guidance and advices are well taken, and we would like to shape up our future with your guidance and the advisors. And also, I would like to Dr. Manoj Samaratunga, the founder of Sri Lanka Research Community, for organizing and moderating this webinar. Importantly, I would like to thank all the participants today who joined with us. And also, once again, I would like to thank all of you. Now we are going to end this Zoom session. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rasanjali. Thank you, Professor. Good night to all.